All right, so we are back, and this is session two, part two of our 7 day series on breaking free from tension with chakra alignment. All right, so before we dive in, let's just do a recap of our first session. So, in our first session, our focus was on the root chakra. And I want to make this really quick correction, okay? Because once we got towards the end and we start talking about the colors and the food that are associated with this particular chakra, I actually gave you the color and the food for today's chakra. All right, so let me make that correction. So, the color associated with the root chakra is red, not orange. It is red. Okay. And the foods that you can incorporate into your diet to cleanse and to make sure that your root chakra is at optimal function are beets and raspberries. All right. So make sure I put that correction in the notes. In the description box on the first video. So just make sure that you have that, make those tweaks. Okay. So let's keep going. All right. So, which chakra? You can probably already guess because we're working our way up the body. So, for the second day, the chakra that we're going to focus on is the navel. Is sometimes you'll hear people say navel chakra or sacral chakra. It does not matter. What you need to know is that this particular chakra is right up underneath your navel. Okay. So let's get into it. So, this particular power center, energy center that we all have is our creative center, our center of creation. So, when you hear people say, and perhaps you've even said it yourself at one time or another, when you hear people say, oh, well, I'm just not creative, they don't understand who they are as energetic beings. Because an elevated person who is conscious, who understands how powerful they are, will never be caught saying, I am not a creative person. They will never make that declaration. There is no such thing as a human being who is not creative. You are always creating. You're creating by your imagination. You're creating by what you think. You're creating every time you open up your mouth and say a word, you have just created, period. Whether you're conscious of it or not, whether that is your intention or not, every time you open up your mouth and say anything, you have just created. Okay? So let's keep going. Now, why is this particular chakra related to releasing tension, which is the whole undercurrent of this series? Why is the sacral chakra related to releasing tension to receive? Why? First, we have to ask the question, okay, what exactly are we talking about when we deal with creativity? What are we talking about? Now, here's levels to this. Creativity, we could be talking about painting, we could be talking about dancing, we could be talking about drawing, we could be talking about drawing up designs or blueprint for a house. Okay, all of that is part of creativity. We could be talking about all of the arts, including music, acting. Yes, we could be talking about those things. But for the purposes of what we're talking about today, we're going beyond that. Creativity involves your expression. Your expression is what? Who you came here to be. The frequencies that you are emitting on a day to day basis, even through your most mundane actions in your day to day. Okay. Your creation power, your creativity involves your essence, your expression, the essence of your being. It involves the essence of your being, which is quantum, not linear. Okay. And I talked about this quantum versus linear identity in other places, in other videos, but let me give you an example. So when we talk about creativity and its association with our sacral chakra, the reason why tension can build up in that particular power center is because immediately when we come into this world, from babies to toddlers, adolescent, teenage, through adult, we are programmed to ignore our desires. We are programmed to ignore our creation power. We are taught that if we go back to the practical level of creativity, which involves, okay, sitting down, coloring, or drawing a picture, we're automatically made to feel that that essence, us expressing who we are in that way, is not valued, is not practical. One of the popular things that we hear, which is where the horrible phrase of starving artist came from, we're automatically taught that if you decide, for example, that you do want to be an artist, a painter, and that is the way that you are choosing to allow money to come into your life, that is one of the avenues that you are choosing to have money come into your life, that somehow you can't do that. That is a very common example of how we are programmed to shut down our creativity, which hence shuts down our sacral chakra, which causes us to hold tension in that area of our bodies. Okay, so that's an example. So a programmed view that causes us to shut down our sacral chakra is that we could say creativity isn't practical. That is a programmed view. Okay. That is tension that has to be released. Okay. Another aspect of that, we could use the example of religion. So if you, and I want to make sure I say this so that it makes sense. So if you grew up in a religion, you're automatically taught that this body, this fleshly body, is already sinful. Like you're taught that you come into the world as a baby full of sin. Okay? So imagine hearing that over and over and over again. That becomes a part of your identity. It becomes your expression. And because that type of program thinking goes against your nature to have desires and to be creative, imagine the tension that is in your body that you hold in your sacral chakra. Imagine all the tension that is built up because internally you're trying to fight that because it goes against what is soul aligned for you. For all of us, really. It is natural to have desires for more. It is natural to have desires to want to live your life a certain way. It is natural. And you know, I always love to use the example of money because we can all understand that. It is natural to have desires to want more money. A programmed view says that to want more money, for example, is to be greedy, is equal to greed. Imagine hearing that over and over and over again. Imagine setting up your life to fit into that program view, that program box. Imagine then the tension that is now resting in your sacral chakra, that is now putting a lid on your creative nature to express your desires, to express and be and show up in life in a certain way. Imagine how tight that lid is now on your sacral chakra. It's time to release that. It is time to release that. Okay. So, tension in that area, it will cause you to, here's another example, will cause you to live a life that is not yours. It'll cause you to live a life that says, well, this is what I've seen other people do. So I guess I just better follow along. Or here's another example: people live a certain way or are not fully engaged in their own identity. They're not fully engaged in their own expression because they're too worried about what other people think of them. Well, they'll say, well, if I say too much of what I want, or if I dress a certain way, or if I wear my hair a certain way, or if I express myself in this way, what are other people going to think? All of this is a part of our creative nature because remember, your creativity involves how you express yourself. It involves your being. So, all of this is intertwined. All the examples that I've given, yes, they may be different, but they're all intertwined because it all comes from the same root, which is creativity. Okay. So, another thing that I want to say about this is that have you ever met someone who, or, people, you perhaps ran into people who are full of resentment? Okay. And on the outside looking in, perhaps their life looks to be what we would call stable, okay, in our from our practical mind. It may appear that they're doing well, but they hold a certain level of resentment. Well, guess what? When you are holding tension in your sacral chakra because you have suppressed your own nature, you have suppressed your own expression, you have suppressed your own identity, it will cause resentment because you will realize, or those people have realized, that they have lived in a way that was acceptable to other people, but misaligned with their own soul. Those people have realized that they've done things for other people, things that they didn't even want to do, but they did it because they thought, well, I guess I'll do this because this is what is acceptable. That's what I did for a really long time with religion. I stayed in a religion knowing it was not for me. It felt like I was walking around in a coffin every single day. But because I said, well, this is what is expected, this is completely undesirable for me, but this is what is expected by everybody else. And I carried resentment for a very long time, even after I left religion. What did all of that tension, where did all that tension go? Where did a lot of the tension go? It went to my sacral chakra. Okay. So now let's go ahead and talk about, because remember in the first video I said, in the first session I said, each of these sacral chakras, we're going to have the main aspect, the food that you can incorporate, and then the command that you're going to make. Okay. So the main aspect of the sacral chakra is reclaiming your creator nature. Or you could say reclaiming your creative nature. That is the main point of the sacral chakra. Alignment tips. Here's what you can do. First, the food that you can incorporate to clear out that sacral chakra, to make sure that it is at optimal level at all times, to make sure that it is aligned. You can incorporate carrots, tomatoes, and cantaloupe. All right. If you don't like cantaloupe, go to tomatoes. If you don't like tomatoes, go to carrots. And if you don't like carrots, then learn to like one of those three. And here's the thing. So the three that I'm giving you, those are the ones that I know of. Okay. It doesn't mean that these three foods are it. And I'm just saying that for this particular session and the other sessions as well. All right. But these three are the three that I know of. I incorporate carrots and tomatoes, most of the time tomatoes. Okay. So, but anyway, carrots, tomatoes, cantaloupe, incorporate those in your diet. All right. What is the color that is associated with the sacral chakra? Red. Red. And just like I said in the first session, you can use a red candle. Okay. Doesn't have to be a red candle. It can be anything red, because remember, when we're talking about the colors here, we're talking about symbolism. So anything that has the red in it, that's going to put you in the mind of, when you're focusing on your sacral chakra, anything that you can look at that says, okay, today or in this moment or in this hour, however you choose to go about this, I want my focus to be on releasing the tension from my sacral chakra. So here is this red object, or here is this red candle, or red jewel, or some type of crystal where the dominant color is red. Remember, this doesn't have to be difficult. Okay, it doesn't have to be difficult at all. This is simple. These are things that we can do in our everyday lives. Okay, now if you can find, which I invite you to do so, which I highly recommend, if you can do this where you have a time where you're sitting by yourself and it is quiet, where that's all that you're focusing on, find the time to do that. Yes, you can incorporate this in your everyday life, but find the time, dedicate the time where it is just you focusing on your energetic centers and nothing else. All right. Now, lastly, for the command for the sacral chakra is this. Now, I'm giving you these commands because these are what I use. The purpose of commands is to make sure that you, first of all, you're using words that resonate with you. And number two, you're using words that speak to the now. When we speak, when we harness our creation power, we are speaking in the now. This is not next week. This is not next year. We're talking about now. So just make sure I'm going to give you the commands I use. You can choose to use those, but if you choose to create your own, make sure that it has those two components, that the words resonate with you and that the words are speaking to you in the now. All right. Command for this is the first one. I now walk in the fullness of my creation power. I now walk in the fullness of my creation power. My desires are in complete harmony and alignment with my soul. My desires are in complete alignment and harmony with my soul. All right. So that is it for the second session. Okay. This session or this whole series came to me and it's just been, I was so excited to share it with you. So take that, let today be your focus on the sacral chakra, and then we will be back for part 3. And I will just tell you, part 3 is going to be the solar plexus. Okay, we're going to get into the solar plexus on part 3. So if you haven't already, go back, watch the first part where our focus was on the root chakra. Today we talked about the sacral chakra. Part 3 is going to be on the solar plexus. All right, so until next time, see you then.